Hi everyone, and I wanted to make a video today that sort of ties together last week and introduces this week. And I'm going to do another cartoon. I'm not sure how you guys are doing with these cartoons that I make. You should let me know. But I've got another cartoon to make, which I feel like is a very important one. I'm going to stick what I say here onto that, and that'll make this week's video. So what I wanted to try and convey, possibly unsuccessfully, is that when we talk about mystery, the helicopter. When we talk about mystery, then we tend to, I feel like we as a culture say, but I think just habitually, we tend to leave the world of science and go into some other territory. So I'm now leaving the domain of science and going into my spiritual self, or whatever. And what our culture does is to separate things. This is something we didn't actually used to do before probably the 17th century. But and the cartoon is going to talk more about that. But so we are a culture that separates. This belongs in this category. This belongs in that category. Even within science itself, we have the proliferation of disciplines within science. And with ever longer names, tack another name onto it, and here's another discipline, and then therefore increasing specialization within each discipline. But we separate, and what we find difficult as a culture, what doesn't happen in our culture, in my view, again, you're free to disagree with anything I say, and that does appear to be happening quite frequently. What we don't do is integrate. We don't create the sort of holistic view. We seem to have, I would say, since the late Renaissance, we have become a culture that analyzes to divide, but does not integrate, and so that we end up with domains, and not with a sense of holistic sense of ourselves or the world really. And then this is expressed, the topic of this course, the whole domain of science and spirituality. We talk about them as separate things, science and religion, even religion and spirituality. So, what I was hoping to do was to not so in other words, we've been going through considering what science is and looking philosophically at aspects of science and how it progresses and all those things. And then we're going into the world of what mystery, and then into mystical experience. And what I was hoping not to do was to not leave science behind. I wanted to not leave science behind as we do that. So I would like to bring science with us through the mystery and into the mystical experience and into that part of the course, so that we don't go from one world to another world, right? We don't separate. Separation is what we do best, and I would like to at least give the opportunity in this course for there to be an integration, for there to be some form of integration that happens. And what I was hoping to do with the last cartoon, and actually the one before even, was to show that science is intrinsically in relationship with mystery. In other words, science itself is, well, I would like to think of science as, one of my sort of, in a way, highest visions for science would be that it would become a revealer of mystery. that it would be a pointer to mystery. And I do think that science was included in mystery schools as an initial stage for this very reason. So it's something to do with the practice of science and what it involves intrinsically brings you to mystery. It intrinsically gets you there. If you investigate it, if you explore it as a practice and a way of knowing, then there starts to be mystery in every direction that you look. And this was my experience as a scientist, actually. So the questions would multiply. And that was intrinsic to the thing itself. It was a part of it. Not something spurious and not a problem. It was actually a part of it. So science is kind of built on mystery, and it takes you to mystery. Now you do find things out in that process, but you never actually dent. You never put a dent in that mystery, even though many scientists pretend that we do. But I think, and I hoped to bring out as we did in this course, that if you really look at this thing carefully, practice of science, you start to see this thing that we call mystery. Irrevocable. It's irrevocable. So that we wouldn't, and we wouldn't want to leave science behind on the journey into the mystery. We would want to bring it with us because why? Because it's helpful, right? It helps. It's like, whoa, this really brings it home that there's a mystery. And then you sort of progress, and maybe science takes you to a sort of leaping off point on a journey which you might continue into the mystery. But it nevertheless is useful in the sense of it really bringing home to you, to our intellects, to parts of ourselves that need to be convinced. It could really bring it home to those parts of us that there is indeed an intrinsic mystery as part of the nature of existence. Okay. And many of those early scientists and all the quotes you read, the quantum physics and all that stuff, I think that's what happened to them, is they got it. It's like, oh yes, that's what we've been doing. There's been mystery all along, and we thought we were doing something else. It is an insight. It is not, many scientists do not see that, but there's also scientists that do see that. And so that is what I've been trying. That was what I was trying to do, and with possibly not much success. I don't know, but it's like science then is not at that point. It's not it's a part of it's potentially a part of a spiritual path, right? Plato's Academy had those words above it, which I don't remember exactly, but something like those who do not know geometry must not enter here. Geometry and for Plato, mathematics and astronomy, the motions of the planets were to him considered extremely important as a part of a process. And you find that theme echoed actually throughout the early Middle Ages. So from antiquity throughout the early Middle Ages, and I'm going to talk more about that. Plenty of quotes of that kind. That natural philosophy, science was a program about your studying natural philosophy was a program that was about your own development, to bring you closer to God, basically. So, and that was an early part of the idea of studying the world. So I wanna at least have this possibility that there would be, to open the door at least to this possibility of there being an integration of science actually not being something that you do over here, and then spirituality being doing something you do over there. Have you seen? Non-overlapping magisteria just does not cut it for me. That's just for me. Doesn't cut it. We have to get to a place where we bring things together and start to recover the whole. Okay, to recover the whole from this position where we are the separator. How do we recover the whole so that we can become whole, basically? And it's rather like putting Humpty Dumpty back together again. I suppose sometimes you can't do that, and then if we find that out, then we find that out. But I want to at least open the door to that possibility. So this video then will serve as the introduction to the next video, which will hopefully bring us into mystical experience, but via a sort of retrospective view of what science and religion used to be and what happened as we made the switch over in the 17th, 18th centuries, when we made that switch over into the sort of more modern worldview, modern perspective. History is, I've just slowly discovered, is a tremendous teacher when when some attempt is made to have it be a true history rather than a self-serving history. The kind of history that I learned as a scientist about the history of my domain was pure propaganda, not the real thing at all. So is there the kind of scientific approach to history where one can actually have some objectivity and sort of see things rather than having an agenda? That kind of history, to the degree that it's possible, that kind of history is I find to be a tremendous teacher. And so the next part will be, let's go over that history again, really bringing out certain points. So that's what I'm going to try and do. So, stop this one.